And now I would like to introduce our speaker and presenter and chef for tonight. We are very happy to be joined by Sandeya Jain of Sandeya's Kitchen as she takes us into her home to show us how to make some traditional Indian dishes. Sandeya, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me for your library. I'm so excited to share some good, delicious Indian food that's also quick to make. So today we are making two dishes. We are making a spinach-based chicken dish, and we are making a quick rice pilaf. It's a great way to use your leftover rice, although we'll cook rice from scratch today. The plan today is that we will be multitasking. We'll be making a few things. While it's simmering, we'll start working on the other dish, come back to the first one. And as we are doing that, I'm going to talk to you about spices, and feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. However, if you're cooking along and if you have an SOS, then feel free to just jump in and say, and if you're cooking along, I think it's a good idea if you just put it in the chat box so that we both know what part, if huge portion of huge group of our participants who are cooking along. That way we can just figure out the pace for the class. So I think that would be a good thing to do if you're cooking along. And I will have lots of pauses in between. I love to chat, but I will stop talking every now and then to take any questions that you might have. Okay, so let's see. Carrie, how many people are cooking along? Let's see. I don't see anything right now.
So we've got about 26 in the room.
Yeah.
So can I have a show of hands at least if our computers are off, if we can do the emoji hands up and the reactions to see how many people are cooking along.
Oh, let me tell you though, just with a glass of wine, watching food being cooked is very fun too. So it's a weeknight. Don't feel too bad if you're not cooking along. Oh, I see Kristen is cooking along. Okay.
Looks like Willis too might also be, and Josh.
So
we've got a few people who are going to be cooking along tonight. Very good.
Okay, so just stop me if I'm going too fast for you. I will try not to, but we have a little bit of a time frame, so I'll try my very best. And I will give you enough cues to say, hey guys, get ready with this or that, so that you're not caught off guard. The only thing I suggest to people who are cooking along is have your ingredients with you, okay? So that you're not running to the fridge or pantry to grab them. That's just something, and I'm making sure I'm also doing that. So just have everything ready with you so that cooking is seamless rather than going back and forth. Okay, so we are going to start with rice pilaf. Okay, and the kind of rice that is mostly used for making this dish is basmati rice. And a lot of you, basmati rice is so popular, it grows on the foothills of Himalaya. And it's a very long-grained, beautiful rice, which is very, very low in starch. So it does not stick to each other. So when you cook the rice, all the particles, all the rice pieces are fluffy, and it's got a great, delicious aroma too. You could use brown basmati rice, or, I'm using the good old white kind. Okay, so what I want you to do, those who are cooking along with me, is to go ahead and wash your rice. You need to wash it at least 2 or 3 times so that there's a milky residue that kind of goes away from your rice, and that gives a beautiful color to your rice, a brighter white, and just makes for a more delicious rice. So I'm going to go wash my rice, and then we'll start cooking. So just a few rinses. I'm going to rinse it about a couple of times. And just drain it off, and you can just bring it back. Okay. So while those who are cooking along are bringing the rice back, I'm going to lower my camera, and feel free to type any questions, and Carrie can read it out to me. Okay. So here my rice is all washed up, right? There's some water in there. That's fine. The trick to making rice really flavorful is by spicing it up. And before I do anything, let me show you my spice box. Can you see it? Is that a better view? So this is my spice box, and I have two of those. One I use only for whole spices, and this box is for everyday powdered spices, if I may say so. And most of the Indian households would have a spice box like that to store their spices. And the reason is that every cooking, we do use so many spices that if we had individual bottles, we'll be screwing and unscrewing bottles for the longest time. So it just is easier to go with it when you have a spice box like that. All right. So coming back to our rice dish, wash the rice. Now we have to infuse it with some of these spices, and you can use a muslin cloth. You can throw the spices in there on its own. You don't have to worry about it, or you could use a tea strainer. And I love using a tea strainer because I don't have to worry about storing one more thing in my kitchen, and I'll just nestle this in my rice and it will make my rice flavorful, pull it out and be done with it, right? So let's look at those spices. So what you need is some clove. Here you go. About 4 pieces of clove. It will go inside your tea strainer, or you can put it straight in the rice. You don't have to use a tea strainer or a muslin cloth if you have that. Then we are going to use green cardamom. So green cardamom is very flavorful. It's very floral. And inside this are these beautiful black seeds. Let me show that to you. Here, they're teeny tiny. You might be familiar with cardamom powder, but that's how you get cardamom powder when you just crush this up. And it's like a mouth freshener. It's very high in magnesium. And it's a very big part of North Indian cooking. A lot of curries and gravies that you might have in an Indian restaurant are very high in cardamom. Then I have some cinnamon sticks here. So if you see here, these cinnamon sticks are these barky looking flat cinnamon sticks. It's not one of those fancier, rounder versions. So most of the cinnamon stick that comes from east part of the world, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, they all were barky like this, and they're a little bit more peppery. Whereas the cinnamon sticks that you find in America that are these smooth, round kinds, they're sweeter. So I put some cinnamon in there. Go ahead, stick your bay leaf in here. Right? And then what we are going to do is we are going to add double the amount of water. So I have 1 cup of rice. I'm going to add 2 cups of water. That does not change with rice, right? There you go. Now, the trick to make everything taste the way it's meant to be is by adding salt. Now, if you salt your pasta water, you know what I'm talking about. It's a lot of salt, but it will not taste like anything if your water is not salted. In fact, I'm going to ask you to taste the water. I do that, even with my pasta, actually. So I'm going to stir it and I'm going to taste the water. Yeah, it tastes a little bit salty. I can taste the salt, and that's how I know that my rice will have beautiful flavors. Now, if you're comfortable using spices, go ahead, add some turmeric in there right now, if you're familiar with that. Or if you have some other whole spices in your pantry that you like to use, and you can ask me in the chat box, you can put those in there. And we are going to turn the fire on, stovetop on, and it will come to a boil. I'm going to put that on the back stove, all right? And we'll wait for it to come to a boil. Any questions for me here? Somebody's asking sodium substitute for the salt. You know, they say lemon adds a little bit of a flavor. You can try that. We will add lemon to our rice right at the end. So maybe that would be enough for you. But honestly, I don't know what else we could use instead of salt here to bring out all the spices. I'm not good at that. Substitution with salt, because Indians eat a lot of salt. so I wish I could help you with that one. But I think the lemon in the end will bring out the spices as well, okay? So I did put my rice on the back stove and it'll come to a boil. What I want people who are cooking along is to have a lid ready, so that as soon as it comes to a boil, we are going to put a lid on it and reduce the heat, low medium. And that way, what's going to happen, your rice will slowly cook there. So just have a lid ready for those who are cooking along with us. Now what I have going on is a big skillet. I have a cast iron skillet. I just love my cast iron skillet. You can use whatever you want to use. Don't worry about it. Just get a nice big skillet, at least a 9-inch skillet, because you will be putting in about 6 to 8 cups of spinach in there. It should be able to accommodate some of it. And then eventually the spinach will kind of wilt down. Now, first thing we'll do is we are going to take the chicken. You could be using chicken thighs, breast, boneless, skinless, and we are going to put that in our skillet. So my skillet is still not hot enough to put any kind of protein. You really want to make your skillet hot. Let's see if there are any questions till my skillet is getting hot.
So no questions. We had what somebody sent me. They wanted to know about the recipe to cook along with. We did post the ingredients on our social media sites, but if anyone would like the full instructions, please put your email in the chat and I'll make sure I email those to you right now.
And how's Kristen and Jeff doing? Are you guys with us right now? Or are you rushing around? I'm guessing they're fine.
So,
okay.
Also, Willis did ask you put oil or ghee in the skillet.
Right now, there is nothing in my skillet that is heating up for the chicken. Is that what you mean?
I think they want to know, are you putting oil or ghee in the skillet?
Oh, I'm going to use ghee because ghee is ghee. So yes, so for those who don't know what is ghee, ghee is, oh, Kristen says she's with us, yay. So ghee is basically clarified butter, but it's cooked down a lot more than clarified butter is. So it becomes so brown that the milk solids get burned, completely burned. And what you have left is just the rich oil or rich ghee on top. And this is what it looks like. And it's shelf stable. See, this is shelf stable and it is actually lactose free if you worry about eating lactose. And you can make it at home. You just take 4 sticks of butter and just cook it down for about 40 to 45 minutes on low medium heat till it just gets honey colored and the milk solids go in the bottom and you can see them all burned, and then strain it out and that's your ghee. Okay, so my skillet is super hot right now. So I'm just going to, you could put a little bit of oil if you're worried about your skillet. Let's do that. I'll be fine because my cast iron is very, very well seasoned, but I'll still put a little bit in there. So there's a little bit of ghee in there. You could use anything. If you have canola oil, olive oil, ooh, I hear that sizzle, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Now, if you don't have chicken, you could use potatoes, believe it or not, delicious potatoes. You could use tofu. You could use paneer, which is like Indian cheese, which doesn't melt. So it gets a little noisy when it's searing. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to just keep putting the chicken in there. I'm using chicken breast, but use whatever cut of meat you have. Whatever you have with you. Keep an eye on that rice, guys. Those who are cooking along. Any questions there, Carrie?
So far, I don't see any additional questions. No.
Okay, cool. So what I did was I did put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper in my chicken a little ahead of time, about just an hour before. You could do that if you have the time. If you don't have the time, you don't have to. Now, this with potatoes is really, don't think I'm trying to give you a shortcut that would be lame. It's actually wonderful if you added some seared potatoes in your dish instead of chicken. You must try that. So if you kind of cut your small potatoes or even a big russet potato in wedges or in coins and just give it a nice brown color in your skillet before you start cooking, almost shallow fry them, you would be so happy with that dish.
Zendaya, someone asked you time your rice cooking.
One second. Can you say that again, Terry?
Do you time your rice cooking?
I don't. Because I don't. The reason I don't is sometimes when I'm cooking a bigger pot of rice, it's going to take much longer for it to come to a boil. Okay. So I'm just waiting for it to come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, then I will be able to tell you how long you would keep it on a low heat till it gets cooked. Okay. But till it comes to a boil, we'll just keep an eye on it. Okay.
Okay.
And once your chicken has some color, you can pull it out and put it on the side. Now, while that is happening, I want people who are cooking along is to grab a garlic, 3 pieces of garlic, and just roughly chop them. Remember, this whole thing is going to go actually in a blender. So I'm not really worried. This whole thing will go in a blender. So don't worry about your knife skills. Who cares? It doesn't have to be very fine as long as we break them a tiny bit, only because it just adds to the flavor. And I read somewhere, if you really want the health benefits of garlic, if you break it or chop it and leave it at room temperature, that's when it really releases all the goodness. So that's a bonus if you just cut it right now. So my chicken looks ready. I'm going to take it out in this little bowl. Mine is a chicken breast, so it's much more delicate. It can become rubbery very fast. So I'm going to pull out mine. If you have chicken thighs, if you have chicken with bone, then guess what? It will be way more forgiving. Now, this with lamb is also so good. If you like lamb, delicious. Okay, so I did chop my garlic very, very roughly. What I want to talk to you now about is the spice. This is called fenugreek seeds, F-E-N-U, Greek, fenugreek seeds. You might be familiar with fenugreek tea, you know. Before I have to stop speaking. You know why? Because I can hear my rice. I can hear my rice boil away. So I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to now reduce the heat to low medium. I'm going to reduce my heat exactly in between low medium, put a lid on it, and let it simmer. Let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Okay. So now coming back to our chicken. Your rice, reduce the heat, low medium, put a lid on it, and let it simmer slowly for about 15 minutes. We'll still keep an eye on it, okay? So coming back to our saag. Let's start with ghee. If you have butter, you can use butter. But ghee, along with olive oil and coconut oil, are considered one of the healthier fats. They're really good for you. Now, I want to have my mise en place because my garlic will burn very quickly, very, very quickly. So what I want to do here is quickly give a rough chop to my tomatoes, okay? Again, it's the whole thing is going to go in a blender. We don't care. Even if you cut it in quarters, you'll be good. We don't care. You don't have to be fancy about it. There you go. And my ghee is getting a little bit hot in that skillet. And as soon as I finish chopping the tomatoes, I am going to put my garlic in there. Now, at this point, I'm going to say how you're going to control your heat. This is not a very spicy curry. This is a very warm curry. So what I have here are these good old chili flakes, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my garlic in here, just so that it kind of browns up a little bit. Garlic tastes so much better with a little color, but don't let it get burnt because that's when it becomes bitter. I can smell that ghee. I can already smell the garlic toasting. Just a little bit of a color. You will visually see it's kind of softened a little bit. It just takes about 30 seconds or so, and it's almost there. Great. Now to this, I'm going to have you put 1/4 teaspoon of cumin seeds. Cumin seeds look like this. They are very earthy. You might be more familiar with the cumin powder that you might be using in some of the Mexican cooking or some other cuisines also. Middle Eastern cooking also uses a lot of cumin. So I threw some cumin in there, and the rule with Indian cooking is whole spices go in first. Another whole spice that's going to go in first is that fenugreek seed that I showed you. But I want to warn you that it's a very bitter seed. It's a very bitter seed. So a lot of it will make your dish bitter. It's an optional ingredient. It just adds a little bitter flavor to your dish because characteristically, this dish is a little bitter in nature, just the tiniest bit. But we are going to achieve that by adding kale or mustard greens because not everybody has access to the fenugreek seeds, right? So I added fenugreek seed. You might be familiar with fenugreek tea that you might have heard about. They use the leaves to make that. This is just the seed here. Very bitter, like I said. Now in goes my tomatoes. These are just Roma tomatoes. But honestly, if you have some cherry tomatoes that are about to go south, go ahead, dump them in here. Now, you can use frozen spinach totally. You can absolutely use frozen spinach. In fact, in my everyday life, I use frozen spinach way more than the fresh spinach. But today I'm using fresh spinach because fresh spinach gives it a beautiful green color. But if you're in a pinch, you want to make that dish, I have made it way more with frozen spinach. So I have about 5 ounces. You can take about 4 or 5 cups, heaping 4 or 5 cups. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit more or less. You don't have to crank out your measuring weighing scale for something like this, okay? Just eyeball about 5 cups or something. Don't push it down. Let it be heaping. Like push it a little bit, but you don't have to really smudge it in. Just about 5 cups. So I have about 5 ounces in here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just cook it up just a little bit more. Oh, I didn't add any heat to it. I forgot about it. So just take your chili flakes and whatever you like, go ahead, put that in here. Now, remember, this dish is a very garlicky dish. So if you're wondering about the amount of garlic in there, it is a garlicky dish, you know, it's a very simple dish, but we up the flavor with garlic, cumin, and all the other wonderful things that are going to go in there. Now to this, I'm going to add all my spinach here. And it will look like it's going to spill, but you know what? Spinach very, very, very quickly looks like nothing. Now, if you're using frozen spinach, just use about a cup. Right? Then you can use 1 stem of kale, mustard, you have them. I have some kale. And I'm eyeballing about a 1/4 cup. That's it, about a 1/4 cup of kale. Trust me, I love kale. And once I did put way too much kale and it took over my entire dish. That was not fun. And it looks like a mess right now, but it will all settle down very quickly. And what helps it settle down is some salt. So I'm going to salt it a tiny bit so that it just kind of releases water faster. Now, what I would like for you to do is put little water in there just to help it along. Just about a splash. There you go. That's it. And we are going to put a lid on it like this. And we let it cook, okay, till it all reduces. We might have to go back, stir it a little bit, but we will get back to it. Let's see if there are any questions going on here.
Nothing new in the chat, although I do want to mention on our YouTube channel, someone mentioned a sodium option that you can use would be MSG because there is less salt in that, or potassium chloride.
Oh, nice. That's good to know. I hope that helps you. So this will take some time. I'm going to take it to my back stove and it'll just keep cooking there. Okay, and now we are going to start working on onions for the rice. Okay, so those who are cooking along, if you are at the same stage as we are, just grab one onion and we are going to slice the onion and start making that basic filling for some rice. I did not put any lemon juice in the sag right now. We will put it towards the end. Somebody just asked me, did you put some lemon juice? Not yet. That will be in the end. So I'm just taking this whole thing to the back stove and I'm gonna let it cook there, okay? So just remember another 5 minutes or so on your rice and then we'll switch off the heat. And we are not going to take increase the, we are not going to turn it on or take off the lid. We'll just let our rice sit there. So my spinach is cooking there. And now let's bring our attention to the filling for, not the filling, but like flavoring for our rice. So here you go. So I have my onion. I'm going to use a red onion. I'm just partial to red onion, let's put it like that, because when I was growing up in India, there was usually red onion, and I think it has wonderful flavors. However, if you have white onion, yellow onion, whatever you have in your kitchen, hey, if you have too many scallions around, use that. If you have some leeks, use that. It doesn't matter. Once you're familiar with the cuisine, you can just play along with it. Everything seems easy then. So I'm going to slice my onion. If you'd rather dice it, go ahead, do that. But yes, we don't want very fat, chunky onion in there. I love the look of finely sliced onion because I just feel that it just kind of melts in the onion. It's there, it crisps up in the ghee very nicely without really being chunky. Now I'm going to play along and just have some fun with the rice to show you the kind of options that are available. When you're cooking along with me, don't feel like you have to do the same. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to spike my rice with some almonds. If you have cashews, if you have pine nuts, use that. If you have none of those, that's fine. If you have raisins, you could use that. And I'm going to, again, kind of slice my garlic this time. There you go. So my garlic is ready, right? My onions are ready. We are going to use cumin to bring together the flavors, and all this prep work we are doing for our rice. And what I have here are some frozen peas. You don't need to take it out earlier. You can just dump it at the same time. It doesn't matter while they are frozen. Okay, so let's bring this camera back to me and see if anybody's asking anything. Okay.
Nothing in the chat.
I am going to stir my spinach. If you're cooking along, you should do that too. Stir your spinach, and it's beginning to shrink as expected from spinach. The tomatoes are breaking apart as expected. And we are going to let it do its thing. So now let's talk about our onion. So I'm going to grab another pan. Okay. There you go. So in this pan, I am going to add ghee again because I love ghee. But you can add whatever fat you like to use. If you like coconut oil, this is a good time to use coconut oil for either of the dishes or both of them. And like I said, whole spices going first, but first will go the garlic. Now, again, if you want to make it hot, you could add jalapenos, you could add Thai chili peppers. That's how Indian food is usually made spicy, by adding very thin Thai chili peppers. Or you could just add some chili flakes. The idea today is to teach you a dish without having you go and have a huge spice pantry of your own. So with few things that are easily available, we are trying to create a good dish and an authentic dish. So in the ghee, I have all the garlic. And once again, we'll give it a few minutes till it kind of sizzles a little bit, gets some color. And then we are going to add cumin. So if you're cooking along, be ready with that cumin. I'm going to go back and stir that spinach. We don't want the bottom to get burnt. We want it to keep moving. Don't keep your heat too high. Keep your heat on medium. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to switch off your rice. Switch off your rice because it is almost cooked through. The remaining little bit, last 5% of cooking will happen with that steam. So don't pull the lid off, just let it sit there. So you see how this is sizzling? I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of cumin in there.
Somebody asked in one of our chats, what else can you add to the rice?
Oh, what else from spice point of view? You could add some mustard seeds if that's what you like. Mustard seeds look like little balls, and I'm going to show it to you. Just hang on. I don't want the cumin to burn, so I'm going to quickly put my onion in there. But before that, I'm going to play with it and add some almonds. Don't get frazzled if you're cooking along. It doesn't matter. I'm just showing a little extra. And I'm going to get back to the person who asked me what else goes in there. I just want my onion in there just so that my spices and garlic doesn't get burned. There. And now this can keep cooking on low heat till it breaks down, till it has a nice color, till it looks kind of caramelized. Sometimes I am really not hesitant to add a little bit more fat if it feels like it's kind of dried up. If the onion soaked up all that ghee very quickly, I did add a little bit more. You don't have to though. You don't have to. There you go. Okay, so talking about what else can go in there. Okay, so I have mustard seeds here. They are like these black balls. Oh, I wish there was some way of showing it to you without it all rolling on my hand. Let's try now. There. Oh. They just roll off and I turn them, and they're so tiny there. So you might be more familiar with yellow mustard, but this is black mustard. You could put that in your oil. You could put some fennel seeds, you know, it would be delicious. Fennel seeds and cumin and rice, that's another option. Peanuts are delicious in there. A combination of cumin and mustard is great in there. Somebody asked me, what is the brand of my pan, huh? So this is actually Emerald. This is 18 years old. And I love them. So this is the Emerald brand. He is still a very famous chef. He used to be on Food Network a lot. So my onions are cooking away. My rice is switched off. You could also put raisins in here if you want to have some fun with this. So I'm going to go turn around my spinach, and it's wilted a lot. And I'm almost ready to bring it all together. Are there any questions there?
Not any more than I see.
Okay. So if you see my rice is kind of looking, you can see it's looking like it's softening. It's getting a little color. The problem with spices is that if you keep your heat very high, or if you're not careful, from being flavorful to burnt, it goes so fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now take this to the back stove and show you what my spinach is like, okay? Look at that. So you remember I said don't add too much water, just a splash? Because of this. I love to be in control of my food. I want to decide how much water and when. I do not want to be told by my food that it's now too liquidy. So that's why we added very little water to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off the heat, and I'm going to bring out my blender. And I'm going to put all this in the blender. And yes, then I will add some water to run it. Otherwise, it will not run. Okay, so I'm going to go grab my blender. There you go. So I'm going to transfer everything in here. Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Sure. Someone asked, the pan with the onions in it, is it a wok?
Carrie, your voice is cracking.
Can you hear me?
Barely. Is it
One
just...
second.
Yeah, that was better. What just happened?
The pan that you use for the onions, is that a wok? Sorry.
I could get something about pan you're asking.
In the chat, is it a wok or a cast iron fry pan?
Yes, so this is my this is my cast iron. This is a large cast iron pan. And I use it for absolutely everything. I love it. You just have to take care of it, season it. Don't scrub it and just leave it, season it, and you'll be fine. I think recommendation for using your cast iron makes it sound very scary when people say don't put soap on it and this and that. Hey, sometimes it's so grimy that salt and oil, nothing helps. Aluminum foil, you do need to scrub it down with some soap. You do. And I do, to be honest with you. But my cast iron is like a nonstick, because every time I do that, I just put a little bit of oil in it and spread it all around with a paper towel. And then I put it on a hot, make it hot on the stove top, or I put it in a hot oven. And it absorbs all the oil and it's shiny again. So even if you have to put a little bit of soap, I don't think it's the end of the world. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I just transferred everything in here. I'm going to add just about a 1/4 cup of water because I love to be in control. If it's thick, I will add more later. And remember, especially for people who are using chicken thighs, your chicken will ooze out water. So if you make it too watery, and with the chicken water, you might have to cook it down too much to get rid of that extra water. So it's going to get a little noisy because my blender is going to run. Go stir those onions for those who are cooking along. Don't let them burn. We don't want to burn them. We want to caramelize them. I'm also going to go stir mine. Look at that beautiful color I got. I don't know if you can see that vibrant. And here you go. I can smell the kale, I can smell the spinach. Now this color, if you're a sucker for color, which I am, you only get it with fresh spinach. If you try doing that with frozen, you're not gonna get it. Now, what else could you throw in there? A few pieces of broccoli would be delicious in here, you know? Now, let's give it a taste. I love to taste every stage of my food.
Amanda does say it looks lovely.
And you know what? It tastes good. I can taste that bitterness of kale, but it's not overpowering. When I swallow my food, there's a little bit in the back, that little punch, that little bitterness, which is delicious with spinach. And now I'm going to add my chicken to it. So your seared chicken or your potatoes. So if you're doing vegetarian dish, guess what? You're almost done. But if you're making meat, if you're using meat as a protein, then you know what? It needs a little bit more cooking. So I'm going to turn on my heat. We are going to put the lid on it because our chicken was not cooked through. It was just seared. And this goes back, and I'm bringing back my onions. Let's take this back. The heat is low medium. Look at these. I think they look really good. Don't let these brown bits make you feel that you burnt anything. You really haven't. And to this, now I'm going to add my peas. And because these are frozen, I'm not looking to cook them to death, but I just want that, I just want it not to be frozen, that's all. So we let it get some heat here. And now I'm ready to bring my rice to the party too. So now see, all the steam comes out. You take your rice, grab a fork, and fluff your rice. See how perfect that is. Look, fluffy, wonderful. And as easy as this, I got my strainer out. All the spices did what they needed to, and I don't have to worry about washing a muslin cloth or unnecessarily throwing one. Yeah, I wash mine. I don't always throw them. And then this goes straight in my onions and potatoes. Now you mix it all up and you'll see those beautiful colors. The purple and the brown from the red onions, the green. My heat is on. There you go. Mix it all up. And there'll be crunch from those almonds. If you added some raisins, that add a beautiful sweetness. And to make it really wonderful, I am going to put a little squeeze of lime in there. But listen, don't overdo it. Lime can take over your dish so quickly. I always say you can add more, you can't take it out. There you go. Now, if you have cilantro, if you have mint, go ahead, throw that in there. It'll just add a beautiful flavor. I just tasted some and it tastes really good. I could use some more lime. I don't want it tart. I really don't want it tart, but I do want that freshness from the lime. I'm going to switch off my heat. Nothing else needs cooking here. And that's it. That's your quick rice pilaf. Now, once you're familiar with Indian cooking, you could put turmeric in there to have yellow rice. Like I said, any kind of nuts, raisins. You could put some finely diced carrots, leeks, whatever you have. It could be a kitchen sink rice, you know. Are there any questions with you?
We just have some very hungry viewers. We've had some people who said it looks like it smells incredible. People who want to know what time we're supposed to meet so that we can eat.
Come on over. It is good. And the salts that we put in the beginning does bring out the flavor a little bit more. And the lemon juice really makes it fresh, and cilantro, mint, parsley, if you like parsley, go for that. So that's one dish down. And now I'm going to see how my chicken is doing. So for those who like to use a thermometer, your chicken should read 165 degrees. That's the temperature for chicken. And especially if you're using bone-in chicken, you should make very sure that your chicken is cooked through. Mine is a chicken breast, so I know it is cooked through.
So we did have someone ask, Sandhya, if there is anywhere in particular that you buy your supplies from. Do you have a favorite local grocery store?
So for Indian stuff, I do like to go to Indian store, and I'll tell you why. Mostly because the footfall is so high in an Indian store that you will always be getting fresh spices. Now, that said, I have found some of the best cardamom from Whole Foods, especially their organic cardamom. Then I was teaching at Boston Market for some time in Boston, and they have this farmers market where you had to kind of shop from those farmers market to, again, teach people how to use that. And there was a shop called, okay, I need my glasses, hang on. Soluna, such good spices. So I got their cardamom. That was very good. And I like to splurge on expensive spices, to be honest with you, because usually, like, I opened this bottle of cardamom and I could smell the cardamom, and that just means it's wonderful, wonderful quality. Because sometimes if you're buying an expensive ingredient a little bit cheap, there's a good chance it's not as pure as it should be. So saffron, cardamom, all these kind of more expensive ingredients, I do like to get from specialty shops. But my everyday spices, I think you get better bang for your money if you get it from Indian stores. And sometimes you can grind them up yourself. So if you get cumin, you can grind it up yourself in a coffee grinder and have your cumin powder or coriander powder. But I buy pre-powdered ones from Indian stores and I have nothing to complain. It's just that when it comes to very fragrant spices, I would go to Saluna or to Whole Foods or Penzi spices, more specialty stores. But for the most part, you'll find me at the Indian store. So now let's look at this. This is bright green and beautiful. To this, I'm going to add, I'm eyeballing, if you can pull out a measuring spoon if you care, about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of cardamom powder. Cardamom, spinach, nutmeg, spinach, it's so good together. A little bit of salt. And now comes the good stuff. Cream. A little bit of heavy cream. Now you could use coconut cream, coconut milk, half and half. Cream cheese, a little dollop of sour cream or cream cheese, anything to add a little velvety smoothness to it. It's just characteristic of this dish. If you have some creme fraiche, whatever you have, mascarpone, anything creamy, if you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Then I'm going to add a good squeeze of lime. Now, interesting fact, iron in spinach gets absorbed better in your body if it's accompanied with some kind of a vitamin C, which we just did. I'm going to taste it. It does need a little bit more salt, but that's where you'll bring your own taste buds into action and decide how much you like. I'm also going to add a little bit more cream. Just a splash. I feel like after eating all that spinach, I've earned a little bit of cream. There. Now that's a better dish. There you go. So that's your saag paneer, the saag chicken. This could be paneer, this could be tofu, it could be anything like that. Now, if you have extra herbs lying in your fridge, let's say you have lots of parsley, you can put a little bit of parsley with your spinach and puree that along with it. Or some cilantro if you have, you can do that. If you have some mint, you can throw in some mint, not too much because it will take over your entire dish. So I'm going to give it a taste. And I like it. Not because I cooked it, but I do like it. So there you go. And our food is ready to be served. I grab my favorite bowl here. I get some of that rice. Now, listen, don't think I do this on a daily basis. This kind of mollycoddling of my husband is just today because I'm cooking here and he's hungry. Usually this doesn't happen. So don't think this is my everyday life. Huh? I'm being fancy for you guys. And let's bring the chicken to the party. There we go. I'm trying to be chefy about it. Here you go. Here is your Indian quick pilaf with some saag chicken. I really hope you try it. I always tell everybody, try a new cuisine as soon as you learn it, rather than wait for too long. And the faster you do it, the more you'll remember what we talked about today. And it's a very, very forgiving dish, So let me know if you have any questions. I'm right here as I'm typing the website that I have. I offer private cooking classes from my home in Franklin. So if you go on my website, you can choose 3 dishes and then email to me, and then you alone or with your friend or your wife or husband. I've had families come in and then you cook all the food, and that's my favorite thing because then I don't cook. I basically watch you cook. So you can join me for something like that in my kitchen, and my classes have made gifts for several years now. So I'm going to just write my website here. And I'm also going to write my Facebook page where you can follow me if you wish to. If you have a problem when you're cooking, or if you have a question, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Now, I do have one other question. What else would you serve? Would you do like a naan with this? Is there anything else that they could serve with this?
So I'll tell you something very fun. Naan is not a very typical Indian food. It's considered an Indian dish, but naan is actually a more restaurant, let's go to a party kind of a dish. So a normal Indian household would not be eating naan. They would rather eat something like a tortilla, which is called roti.
Or a chapati?
Or chapati, correct. Oh, there you go, Carrie. That's awesome. So chapati or paratha is more everyday food, which is made with whole wheat flour. You will see Indian diet very rich in whole wheat grains, and usually it would be eaten with that. Although you'll be surprised, an Indian dinner table would have a rice and a chapati or a roti or any kind of a bread like that. And you start with the roti and then you end with a little bit of rice. But yeah, roti, any kind of tortilla. If you get a whole wheat tortilla, you don't have to get chapati or roti. If you just get a whole wheat tortilla, and what I do is I throw that tortilla straight on the flame and flip it over, and delicious. It gets a little bit charred, and eat with that.
Very good. I do want to tell you that Willis, who was cooking along with us, said his kitchen smells great.
Yay! How did your food come? How did it all turn out, Kristen and Jeff? And you said Willis?
Willis, yes.
Willis.
Does anybody want to chime in the chat on how their food tastes that they've been cooking from home?
They're scaring me right now.
Kristen said hers is delicious.
Oh, thank goodness, Kristen. You got me worried for a few minutes.
And then Josh, who doesn't even like spinach, and he says it tastes great.
Yay. Okay, so chicken isn't cooked yet. You're right, Will. It will take time. It will take time. No, Lorena, that's just me being very clever. Haha. No, tea strainers are not used all the time. I should patent it or something. I don't know. But no, it's not. It was just me being lazy. I never had muslin cloth. My husband hates biting into whole spices. So that's how we found the tea strainer.
But that's a good trick and replacement. So normally they would use like a cloth for the spices. In this case, you use the tea strainer, which might be a little more accessible for people making the dish at home.
Yeah.
Well, did we have any other questions? Somebody asked what kind of cloth is it that you would replace the tea strainer with?
T-shirt with?
So to replace the tea strainer.
Yeah. Like, I didn't use a t-shirt. Hey, it's 8 o'clock. That happens, Carrie. It's a long day, I bet, for you too. So, I in India, you do find them, but people would not have muslin cloths like we have them here. They're very stringy, right? It's a one-time use. You cut it, use it, throw it. Also cotton in India, you get very soft cotton. So I actually bring that. It's muslin cloth. It's very soft, fine cotton. I bring that, and you just cut a little square and put it in there and tie a knot. So normally I would use that, but now sometimes when I can't bring my muslin cloth, I just do use the cheesecloth. It's called cheesecloth here. I would use that cheesecloth to do the same thing. Yeah, like a cheesecloth. There you go. But it's cheesecloth is very stringy, you know. A muslin cloth is like a very, very soft cotton. It doesn't matter. It's just about availability. Cotton is more easily available in India.
Well, I think that was it for the questions. Zendaya, I do want to thank you so much. The feedback that I've received has been perfect across the board. 10 stars.
Oh yeah,
10s across the board.
and I get to eat the food now.
I know we're all very jealous right now at this moment and very hungry.
Well, thank you so much for having me for your library. I enjoyed doing this so much and chatting with your patrons there.
Sure. Lorena did have she asked a question on any input on the red kidney bean kofta. I'm not sure, Lorena, do you mean like any suggestions for that or?
Red kidney bean kofta.
She said she saw it on your page.
On my page? What am I missing? Will you go back and read that again? It's malai kofta or I don't have it.
She said red kidney bean kofta. Lorena, do you want to unmute?
Kebabs. Did you mean kebabs? Yeah, I think
kebabs,
she meant kebabs.
yeah.
Yes, they are delicious. So I just use canned kidney beans, and then I whip it with some spices and then turn it into little patties and then toast it till they get firm. It's so good. I should put it on my menu, actually. I don't know why I don't have it on my menu on my website. I used to teach at Whole Foods for a while, and I used to bring some of these really healthy dishes to them.
She also asked what holds it together. What's the binding agent for that?
So I do either use almond flour or I would use some breadcrumbs. But almond flour works really well too.
Perfect. And a good option for those who are staying away from breads. So.
Yeah. And full of protein.
Very good. Also true. And if you're looking for a vegetarian dish, high protein is huge. So.
And you'll be surprised how meaty that tastes. So when you make that, it's rich and meaty, and you won't miss meat at all with those red kidney bean kebabs.
She said no arrowroot.
You could. You could. You totally could if that's what you have. You just need anything to bring it together. But traditionally, in that red kidney bean dish, you would put some kind of rich nut. It could be cashew powder. So I feel almond powder or almond flour kind of keeps it more authentic. But just for keeping it together, it could just be arrowroot or cornstarch too. But from authenticity point of view, I would say go for a nut flour.
Okay. All right, well, if we don't have anything else for Zendaya, we'll finish up for tonight. Oh, wait, she said what spices?
Oh, just, you you could use cumin, you could use cardamom, clove, the spices we use today, lots of ginger and garlic, and just all whip it together in a food processor. And there you go. It comes together very fast, that dish.
Right, well, Zendaya, thank you so much. I know we're all going to be rushing off to go try and make this on our own if we weren't cooking along with you. Those that were are probably enjoying their food right now. And thank you everybody for joining us. I did forget to mention, and I do want to just quickly say it now, we owe all of our support from the Friends of the Public Library for helping us to fund programs like Zendaya. If you would like to support the Friends or learn more about the Friends, you can find more information about them on our webpage. And thank you all very much for tuning in for today's Cooking with Zendaya. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you. Bye. Enjoy, guys. Bye-bye.